Hi, it's Mary here, and today we're going to explore a powerful idea that can change the way you attract women, especially as you get older. And you know what's most interesting? It has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with looks. And it definitely has nothing to do with those cheesy pickup lines you find all over the internet. The truth is, these two words activate something much deeper in the female brain, something that triggers emotional connection points that most men don't even know exist. And look, I'm going to tell you exactly what these words are. I'll explain the science behind it, but there's a detail that almost no one notices. And it's exactly this detail that separates the men women forget from the men they can't stop thinking about. Stay with me until the end because this information can completely change the way you communicate. And before we go any further, let me introduce myself properly. I'm Mary Smith, host of the Mindful Senior Living YouTube channel. And for years, I've worked with men and women navigating love, attraction, and emotional connection, especially in the second half of life. I've sat across from couples in their 50s, 60s, even 70s who thought the spark was gone. And I've seen it reignite with nothing more than a shift in communication. Now, let me speak directly to you for a moment. If you're a man over 40, over 50, maybe even over 60, and you've been quietly wondering, do I still have it? Do women still feel that pull toward me? I want you to know something. Yes, but not for the reasons you've been told. Not because of status, not because of charm tricks, but because of emotional leadership. And today, we're going to unpack exactly how that works. Let me tell you something. For years, I've studied thousands of interactions between men and women. I've analyzed patterns. I've observed first dates, long marriages, post-divorce re-entries into dating. And do you know what I realized? The men who attract the most aren't necessarily the best looking. They aren't the richest. They aren't the loudest. They are the ones who master one very simple thing: direct, emotional communication. While most men are spinning their wheels in empty conversations, trying to please, trying not to offend, trying to guess what she wants, the men who truly stand out do something radically different. They use two words that act like master keys to the female subconscious. You see, the human brain is hardwired to respond to certain communication patterns. When those patterns signal safety, clarity, and emotional presence, attraction naturally increases. These two words, when used correctly, create what psychologists call positive emotional anchoring. That means your presence becomes associated with feelings of security, desire, and being deeply seen. So let's go there. The first word is I want. It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? But listen carefully to what happens when a man says I want with clarity and confidence. First, he is taking responsibility for his own desires. He is not asking for permission. He is not outsourcing decision-making. He is owning his intention. And here is a powerful truth of female psychology. Women are deeply attracted to men who know what they want. Salmon. When making plans, instead of deferring immediately, say, I want to go for a walk after dinner. You're training your nervous system to tolerate clarity. Because here's the deeper psychological layer. Many men fear stating, I want, because they fear rejection. And that fear often comes from early experiences where desire was shamed or dismissed. But attraction thrives on expressed desire. Now let's move to the second word. And this is where everything changes. The second word is I appreciate. If you only use I want, you risk appearing self-focused. It can feel like you're taking initiating without attuning. But when you combine I want with I appreciate, something beautiful happens. You create balance between strength and sensitivity. Imagine this, I want to see you again. That's strong. Now add depth. I want to see you again because I really appreciate the way you think. Our conversation had a depth that's rare. Do you see the shift? Now she feels seen, not just desired physically, but valued intellectually and emotionally. And let me tell you something, as a woman who has counseled thousands of women, being seen is intoxicating. Most women are accustomed to compliments about appearance. You're beautiful, you look amazing. Those are pleasant, but they are surface level. When you say, I appreciate your perspective, or I appreciate how calm you are under pressure, or I appreciate how you light up when you talk about your grandchildren, you are acknowledging essence. An essence-based appreciation activates oxytocin, the bonding hormone. Yes, there is real neuroscience here. Studies in interpersonal neurobiology show that when someone feels accurately seen and affirmed, the brain registers safety and connection that creates emotional imprinting. You become associated with warmth and validation. Now, let's talk about something critical: authenticity. If you say, "I appreciate you," but you don't actually mean it, the female brain will sense it instantly. Women are extraordinarily sensitive to micro-expressions, tone shifts, and incongruence, which brings us to congruence. Congruence means your body, voice, and words align. If you say, "I want to take you out," but your shoulders are hunched and your voice trembles, your nervous system is contradicting your message. If you say, "I appreciate you," but you rush the sentence and avoid eye contact, it feels rehearsed. Here's a practical tip: slow down. When you say, "I appreciate," pause for half a second before speaking. Look at her. Let your breathing settle. Speak slightly softer than usual. Depth lives in the pause. And if this is resonating with you, take a moment right now and like this video. That tells me you're serious about becoming a man of emotional depth, not just surface tactics. Now, I want to tell you a story. A client of mine, David, 58 years old, divorced after 25 years of marriage. He came to me saying, "Mary, I feel invisible. Women don't respond to me." He was kind, financially stable, reasonably fit, but his communication was cautious, almost apologetic. On his third date with a woman named Linda, he practiced what we discussed. At the end of the evening, instead of saying, "Let me know if you want to do this again," he said, "I want to see you again. I appreciate how easy it is to talk to you. That means a lot to me." Linda later told him that was the moment she felt something shift, not because it was dramatic, but because it was clear and sincere. Clarity is attractive. Appreciation is magnetic. Now, here's another important layer: timing. You don't walk around saying, "I want," and "I appreciate" every 5 minutes like a robot. That would feel mechanical. You use these phrases at emotional peaks. At the end of a good date, after she shares something vulnerable, when you're setting a plan, when you're expressing continued interest. These are anchor moments. The brain encodes memories most strongly at emotional highs and lows. If you insert clarity and appreciation at those peaks, you become part of a positive emotional memory. Let me give you a practical structure you can use. Step 1, express desire. Step 2, link it to appreciation. Step 3, pause. For example, "I want to spend more time with you. I appreciate how grounded you make me feel." Then, silence. Let it land. And here's a question for you. When was the last time you clearly expressed what you wanted in a relationship without apology? I want you to reflect on that, because many men in midlife have spent decades suppressing desire, compromising, over-accommodating, avoiding conflict. And while compromise is important, chronic erasure kills attraction. Women are not attracted to self-reras. They are attracted to grounded presence. Now, if you've ever felt like you're too late, like younger men have an advantage, let me gently challenge that belief. Emotional intelligence increases with age if you cultivate it. A 60-year-old man who says, "I want you, I appreciate you," with emotional steadiness, carries far more depth than a 30-year-old hiding behind bravado. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell. Every week on Mindful Senior Living, we explore the emotional skills that make the second half of life the most powerful chapter, not the fading one. Now, let's talk about the mistake that destroys all of this. Using these words manipulatively. If your goal is to hack her brain, she will feel it. Women are not responding to the words alone. They are responding to the emotional state behind them. If "I want" comes from scarcity, please validate me. It repels. If "I appreciate" comes from strategy, this will make her like me. It feels hollow. But if they come from grounded self-worth, they create resonance. So here's your final exercise tonight. Stand in front of a mirror. Look yourself in the eyes and say, "I want." Pause. "I appreciate." Notice what comes up. Notice what comes up. Discomfort, power, embarrassment. The way you relate to your own desire and appreciation determines how effectively you express them to others. Because the truth is this: attraction is not about performance, it's about presence. When you can clearly state what you want and sincerely acknowledge what you value, you become unforgettable. And remember, you don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be flawless. You don't need to compete with anyone. You just need to be real. If this spoke to you, leave a comment and tell me which of these two words feels harder for you to say, "I want," or "I appreciate." I read your comments personally and share this video with a friend who needs to hear it, because men don't get taught this, but they can learn. Now, let's go deeper, because there's something even more powerful underneath I want and I appreciate. And most men never realize this layer. When a woman hears, I want, her brain does something very specific. It scans for safety, not physical safety alone, emotional safety. Is this man stable? Is he clear? Is he regulated? Is he grounded in himself? The female nervous system is incredibly sensitive to instability, especially as women get older. In your 20s, attraction might be more impulsive. In your 40s, 50s, and beyond, attraction becomes neurological. It becomes about peace. Let me say that again. As women mature, they are not looking for excitement alone. They are looking for emotional steadiness. So when you say, I want to see you again in a calm, grounded way, her nervous system relaxes. It says this man is not chaotic. He is not playing games. He is not uncertain. And that relaxation is the doorway to attraction. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the comments. There's a concept in psychology called co-regulation. It means our nervous systems sync with each other. If you're anxious, she will feel anxious. If you're calm and centered, her body softens. Now, think about this. Have you ever been around someone who made you feel immediately at ease? You didn't even know why. You just felt settled. That's nervous system leadership. And I want, when delivered with certainty, signals internal alignment. But let's talk about the shadow side for a moment. Many men confuse passivity with kindness. They think being agreeable is attractive. They think stepping back is respectful. They think suppressing desire makes them safer. But here's the truth women often confess in my sessions. I don't feel chosen. That sentence carries weight. When a man constantly says, whatever you prefer, it's up to you. I'm fine with anything. The woman slowly starts to feel unanchored. She feels like she's steering everything. And at first she may not consciously notice it, but attraction begins to fade because polarity requires direction. Now, I want to share another story with you. A man named Robert, 62 years old, widowed after 30 years of marriage. He started dating again and felt completely lost. He said to me, Mary, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to scare anyone off. And I said, Robert, what do you want? He paused for almost 20 seconds. Then he said quietly, I want companionship. I want laughter again. I want someone to travel with. He hadn't said those words out loud in years. That hesitation wasn't about women. It was about disconnection from his own desire. So we practiced. On his next date, instead of staying neutral, he said, I want to take a short trip this fall. I'd enjoy planning something like that with someone special. The woman later told him that was the moment she saw him differently. He went. From polite to compelling, because desire is alive and life is attractive. Now, let's layer in appreciation. When you say, I appreciate, you're doing something very sophisticated emotionally. You're showing attunement. Attunement is the ability to accurately read and respond to another person's internal world. And here's something fascinating. Research in long-term relationship satisfaction consistently shows that feeling appreciated ranks higher than physical attraction in predicting happiness. Higher. Let that sink in. A woman who feels appreciated becomes warmer, more open, more affectionate. But appreciation must be specific. I appreciate you is good. I appreciate how patient you were with that waiter tonight is powerful. Specificity signals attention. Attention signals value. And value builds attachment. Now, let's talk about a common mistake men make when they try to appreciate. They overdo it. Too many compliments too fast can feel like flattery. And flattery often feels like manipulation. Appreciation should feel earned and observed, not sprayed. Here's a practical rhythm. Observe, pause, reflect, express. For example, she tells you about how she handled a difficult situation with her daughter. Instead of immediately jumping in with advice, you say, I appreciate how calm you stayed in that situation. That shows strength. That's measured, that's grounded, that lands. And here's another psychological insight. Women bond through emotional recognition. Men often bond through shared activity. Women bond through being understood. So when you combine I want direction with I appreciate recognition, you create both polarity and bonding. That combination is rare. Now let's go even deeper. There's something called emotional imprinting. It happens when a person associates you with a distinct emotional state. If every interaction with you feels vague and neutral, you become forgettable. But if interactions with you feel clear, intentional, and appreciative, you become memorable. Memorable leads to desire, and desire sustains connection. I want you to imagine something. You're at the end of a beautiful evening. The conversation flowed. There was laughter, maybe even a little vulnerability. Most men in that moment panic internally. They overthink. They freeze. They default to safe phrases. But this is your opportunity. You look at her calmly and say, I want to do this again. I appreciate how natural tonight felt. And then you stop talking. Silence, when you are grounded, is powerful. Silence communicates confidence. Now, I want to address something many of you may be feeling. What if she doesn't respond the way I hope? Good. That means you're being real. Rejection is not a signal of inadequacy. It's a signal of misalignment. And clarity speeds up alignment. When you speak clearly, you filter quickly. The right woman leans in, the wrong one fades out. And that's efficiency, especially in the second half of life. We do not have time for emotional ambiguity. Now, let me give you a weekly practice plan. Week 1, practice I want in low-stakes environments. Week 2, practice I appreciate with friends, family, coworkers. Week 3, combine them in dating scenarios. This builds muscle memory because confidence is not personality, it's repetition. If you're still with me, comment the word clarity below. I want to see who is truly committed to growth. Let's talk about body language for a moment. When expressing desire, stand tall. Slow your breathing. Keep your chin level. Hold eye contact 2 seconds longer than usual. When expressing appreciation, soften your gaze. Lower your voice slightly. Let your face relax. Your body must agree with your words. Women read energy first, language second. And here's something subtle but profound. When you consistently express what you want and what you appreciate, you create emotional predictability. Predictability builds trust. Trust builds intimacy, and intimacy builds long-term attraction. Not excitement, not drama, not games, depth. Now, I'm going to say something bold. Many men lose attraction in long marriages not because passion disappears, but because expression disappears. They stop saying what they want. They stop saying what they appreciate. Silence replaces presence. If you're married or in a long-term relationship, try this tonight. I want more time, just the two of us. I appreciate everything you've done for this family. Watch what happens. Sometimes the spark doesn't need novelty, it needs acknowledgement. And if this is helping you see relationships differently, make sure you're subscribed. On this channel, we don't chase superficial tactics. We build emotional mastery. Let's come full circle. The reason these two words are so powerful is not because they are magical. It's because they represent ownership and awareness. Ownership of your desire, awareness of her value. That balance is maturity, and maturity is magnetic. You don't need louder charisma. You don't need flashier clothes. You don't need to compete with younger men. You need clarity. You need appreciation. You need congruence. And when those align, you become unforgettable. So here's my final question for you. Are you willing to risk being clear in order to be chosen? Because that is the real shift. If this message resonated, like the video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and tell me in the comments which word will you start using more this week. I want or I appreciate. I'm Mary Smith, and this is Mindful Senior Living. And remember, you don't need to be perfect, you just need to be real. I'll see you next time.